Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast has been made possible by the funding from National Lottery Heritage Fund. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. I'm your host, Sheree Mack, and this is a special episode all about birds. It's not all about birds. I just mean like the whole episode is going to be talking about birds, because I don't know that much about birds, but I'm learning. Anyway, welcome. What you heard there was a field recording that I did last week. The Gosforth Nature Reserve is some extensive woodland and wetland habitats which is managed by the Natural History Society of Northumbria, and access to this reserve is restricted to the Natural History Society of Northumbria members. Or you can get a valid day pass. And this is a wildlife haven, and before I went there I was a bit miffed that it was just a private sort of like area and that you had to pay to access it, because you know I'm all about accessibility to the great outdoors for everybody. So I was a bit reluctant to pay the fee, but I was interested to find out what was there. And totally love the area, and I will become a member and hopefully take our groups there and change the landscape in another way. But it changed my thinking, because I was looking at it from a very privileged human being point of view, that this is a nature reserve, you're stopping people accessing it by having to pay. That rules out a lot of people, etc., etc. But then when I flipped it and thought about it from the wildlife's point of view, then it's there to protect the wildlife, fauna and flora, from too many people endangering them by accessing them or not appreciating what's there. You know, just the sheer amount of footfall through this area would erode the soil, damage the plants, the mushrooms, the trees, etc. So I understand that. And I think also a way of getting around that is that they do have open days when a wider population can access it to understand and realise what is there. And I think it was only from going there and seeing it and appreciating the magic of this little haven close to the city centre of Newcastle that I understand now why it is protected. And I'm taking it from the view that it is protected because of the extensive woodland and wetland and the habitats that are there, not from a superior power control way. But that probably still plays into it, because how many people do I know are actually part of the Natural History Society of Northumbria? Well, soon I will be too, and I become a member, and I will be using my membership to make sure like more people like me get through the gates or over the barriers or through the netting sort of thing, because I'm always wanting to, in a manageable and sustainable and a safe way, to open up more spaces to more people that look like me, because it is through these experiences that we learn to love nature more. We learn to reconnect with nature more, and in that process it means with ourselves and each other, connect with ourselves more and each other more. So that was another bird field recording there, and this one was taken within the woodland area, which was mostly pine trees, like a cathedral, the way that they were reaching over our heads, as my fellow walker said. And yeah, there was a certain quality of sound within the thick of those trees. It was a hushed, muffling sound, or maybe the distant cars, but there was also, I don't know, it was a quality of a communal breath together, being that close to the trees, breathing with the trees and acknowledging our debt to the trees of continuing to be the lungs of the earth. Heron gull. As common as white bulky clouds, they eat almost anything, with their sharp yellow bills with red spot like blood. In my ignorance, I labelled them all the same, seagulls, because I saw them at the coast. But when their wailing and yelping moved inland, Mum would say, it must be rough at sea. In my ignorance, I labelled them bullies and brutes, deserving all the violence that befell their grey-winged bodies. Perhaps their increase in numbers and size is due to the readily available supply of edible refuge, of waste. or human error. Yeah, birds. When I was growing up, I was taught that birds were unlucky. My family was very superstitious, and it was unlucky to have a bird in the house. And a bird, no, it wouldn't even have to be a bird, a live bird, right? It would be bird wallpaper, bird ornaments, bird decoration on anything just wasn't allowed in the house. And my mum had a really great fear of birds, and one time a pigeon got into the flat, the communal area of the flat, and my mum, she really freaked out. She was running up the stairs to get into her flat home as quickly as possible and shut the door on the pigeon. And she wouldn't venture out until she knew that it would have been released back outside. And I think that seeing that fear in my mum, who was a big woman, a really confident woman who, you know, could take whatever life threw at her, but to see her reduced to a crying, shaking, nearly, you know, I don't want to use hysterical because that's got connotations around it, but she was at her wit's end basically because of this pigeon in the flat area. And to see that, to witness that, then that had an impression on me, and that stayed with me. It's like, oh my gosh, these flying rats, as they were called, are dangerous. You know, there's something to be afraid of. Be aware around birds. Don't have a relationship with birds. And now, being older myself, I can see that trauma can be passed on, and can be passed on again. But it was a case of me maybe forgetting this or putting it to a side and thinking and doing, of thinking that I want to have my own relationship with birds and not allow my feelings, actions to be dictated by other family members or other families' experiences or fears. So it's been a slow process. It has, but to become full of wonder about birds. And I do think coming to the coast has helped that developing relationship. Seagulls, or as they are really called, herring gulls, that just hang out here at the sea, and their sounds, their squawking permeates my day throughout the day. And again, we was led to believe that these were bullies, these big brutes, and not to encourage them by giving them food. What I've come to think more now about, it's us humans that have made these seagulls either bigger or brutish because of the rubbish, the shit that we throw towards, have piling up all over the place, which encourages the wildlife because it's easy pickings, basically, easy pickings. Some kind of bird. There's this kind of bird. I don't know what kind. Learning the names of birds or anything else in nature was not part of my upbringing. In our tight masonette flat, perched on a dual carriageway, where everything we needed was just a short walk away, always through a grey miasma of concrete and noise. This bird comes along when the red berries are ripe and gorges on them till plump. Then it trills and chatters with delight, something which pains me. My sister doesn't talk to me. A silent void is lodged between us, one I tried to fill with my open light, which she always managed to snuff out and laugh at. Maybe this is what love is, laughter. But I do like this bird. I like its wings, waxy red, yellow and white, chestnut and peach, like wearing its insides out. A flamboyant invasion. I'm going to take a note from this bird's song sheet and softly trill over criticisms of too loud, too much, and let the God inside me shine out. I'm going to drip all my blackness over your white sneakers. Just revel in the wet of it. I think that last bird we heard was a blackbird, and I think it is because I recently bought some binoculars, and I have them by my living room window, and when the feeling takes me or when I hear something, I'll grab them up and go stand by the window and try and hone in on either the sound that I'm hearing or a darting movement. And there's these set of bushes that are just outside there, and usually I can see this black bird with a bright orange bill or beak hopping along underneath the bushes, having something in its mouth, maybe a twig or a leaf, and then dropping it and opening its mouth and singing. And I think this is the sound of that bird, the blackbird. But the thing is, as I've said before, do we really need to know the names of birds or names of anything in nature to actually appreciate them or to have a relationship with them? Because I am trying. I'll have my binoculars and then I might go to a bird book and trying to work out what markings they have, what's on the wings, what's on the breast, what's on their tails. But they move so fast, they're so flitting, and that's part of the power of birds, their ability to fly. So it's really difficult to pin down what bird is what, which bird is which, what are you, sort of thing. And but I don't see that not knowing their names is getting in the way of me connecting to birds, seeing their beauty, appreciating their beauty, thinking how remarkable they are and how they can fly in formation, flying to each other, have those equal distance apart, know where they're going, spread the load as well, in that V shape. If you think about geese, they take the turn about being leading, they share the load, and they do this with communicating to each other in a way that we don't see as humans, but they are so in tune with each other. Going to the place where they migrate to each year, flying thousands of miles and getting there. Point is, and the whole point, I would say, of this whole episode has been to just appreciate the beauty, the intelligence, the gift of birds in our lives. And yeah, okay, it's good to know some names, good to recognize them. You're a blue tit, I recognize you. Oh, starlings, I recognize starlings. And they love chips for some reason. They love to flock around when anyone's dropped anything. But they sparkle, they're lovely. And blackbird, yeah. But my curiosity or wonder in birds doesn't have to be fed by the right way or the right names for them. It can be just fed by sitting out my window with my binoculars up to my eyes and my mouth falling open, going, wow, wow. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. A little detour in our usual way of working. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Bye for now.